In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to a special bonus edition of another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss the classic I Love Lucy episode, Lucy and Superman, guest starring George Reeves, is Superman historian and author Ed Gross. Ed, welcome back.
Thank you, Anthony. And to the chance to talk about I Love Lucy and Superman in one conversation, that's very exciting to me. I love me classic TV.
Well, that's the thing. I know that you have a lot of affinity for I Love Lucy generally and this episode specifically. So before we get into the beats of this episode, let me just toss it to you. What's your personal experience with I Love Lucy and this episode? What have they meant to you over the years?
Well, I mean, I Love Lucy. I mean, it's so funny because like my day job at womensworld.com is writing about classic television. That's what I do on a regular thing. And Lucy is a big component of that. And I related to my editor, and she thought it was funny that when I was a little kid, I used to stay with my grandparents out on Long Island for the summer. And every morning, my grandmother would get so annoyed at me because I was there watching reruns of I Love Lucy. And she would say to me, "You've seen it 100 times." And I would look at her and say, "Yeah, but it's still funny." And that here I am now, many decades later, writing about this stuff and still finding it funny. And then when Superman appeared, I mean, that was around the same time I had fallen in love with Superman as a character. So for me to see Superman on I Love Lucy, my goodness, that was just incredible. It was just so much fun. And it's aged beautifully, I think. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I think for an episode of I Love Lucy featuring Superman, it actually does work.
I've talked about this many times over the years. When it comes to classic television, for me, the 1950s series that stood above the rest, that I spent a lot of time with as a kid and continue to every New Year's Eve, is The Honeymooners.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not to put I Love Lucy down, but I just never had as much exposure to it growing up. I'd see episodes here and there, and I can definitely look at it and appreciate the talent. I just don't have that personal connection to it. But I think about if George Reeves had shown up on The Honeymooners or the Jackie Gleason show, I mean, amazing.
Right, absolutely. And I love, just for the record, I love The Honeymooners. I mean, I love all this stuff. So it's, but you're right. It's like I was thrilled when The Honeymooners showed up in Back to the Future when they were watching an episode. Look, it's Ralph, this man from space, So anyway.
Absolutely. So this was season 6, episode 13 of I Love Lucy, and it aired on January 14th, 1957. I'll give a synopsis and then we'll share our impressions and all of that. Lucy and her friend Carolyn Appleby discover they've each scheduled a birthday party for their son on the same day and time. Lucy asks Ricky to arrange for Superman to appear at little Ricky's party, as Ricky had met Superman in Hollywood the last time he was there. Lucy jumps the gun and tells everyone that Superman is coming, which gets Carolyn to reschedule her son's party. When Superman can't make it after all, Lucy dons a makeshift Superman costume, complete with a helmet, and plans to walk across the ledge from the empty apartment next door and enter little Ricky's party from the window. Before Lucy's entrance, the real Superman arrives and thrills the children. When Lucy ends up stuck outside on the ledge in the rain, Superman comes to her aid, leading to an iconic final exchange with Ricky. And Ed, would you like to do the honors? Because I know this is probably the most famous aspect of the episode, especially for George Reeves fans.
Well, I mean, I assume you're talking about Lucy out there in the rain and Superman has just freed her from the drain pipe. And Ricky is out there saying, "Lucy, what are you doing out there? In the 15 years we've been married, this is the craziest thing you've ever done." And then Superman leans back, George Reeves is Superman, leans back, crosses his arms over his chest and one leg over the other, looking like just something out of a Kurt Swan drawing or something. And his response is, wait a minute, Mr. Ricardo. Are you saying you've been married to this woman for 15 years? Yeah, 15 years. And they call me Superman. And George looks great. I mean, he's drenched in rain, but he looks great. It's probably one of the best looking appearances he's made on the show. It's just a wonderful way to end the episode.
Yeah, it's very funny. I mean, on Adventures of Superman, obviously there are moments of humor, often stemming from Jack Larson as Jimmy Olsen, right? But to have George deliver a line like what we get here in this context was genuinely funny and a wonderful button for the scene and the episode. I had seen at least his scenes before, but I had never watched the whole I Love Lucy episode featuring him until now. And I guess one of the things that struck me is how they committed to referring to him as Superman.
Yes.
Right. So in the episode, he's only ever addressed or referred to as Superman. However, and I appreciated how deft they were with this because I feel like it was a delicate balance. They want to preserve the illusion for the young kids who are watching, but at the same time, right, in the dialogue, especially between Lucy and Ricky, it's clear they're referring to George Reeves, the actor, right? Like Ricky met him in Hollywood. Ricky called his secretary. He's going to be on a plane. And she has that line about, well, he's Superman. What does he need with the plane? So I feel like it works on both levels. If you're a kid watching it and you're just swept up in the idea of Superman, you kind of go along with Lucy's question. Yeah, why does he need a plane? But as an adult watching it, it's like you get kind of what's going on, right?
But you get it, you do. But at the same time, if you watch the episode, he leaps through the doors from the panels from the kitchen into the living room as Superman. And when Fred, Ethel, and Ricky cannot move the piano, he just comes over and shoves it aside. I mean, so I'm not sure what they're doing there, but to me, in my mind, he's Superman rather than George Reeves playing Superman. He's Superman. And I get the plane thing. I totally get that. Yeah, why does he need to play? Maybe he's tired that day. Who knows? But there's enough Superman things in there to make you feel that it's Superman appearing, in my opinion.
Okay, so you're saying even in the world of I Love Lucy, that's the actual real Superman.
Yeah,
Okay.
in my mind, it is. The piano thing to me says, all right, they're really committing to him being Superman because he just shoves that thing aside and three people have not been able to move it. And they weren't acting because, I mean, the actors were acting, but, the characters weren't acting because Lucy's out there and in trouble. So, yeah, I am convinced that it is Superman.
All right. Well, I don't want to shatter the illusion, so I'll go along with that.
Okay, whatever. Not that committed to it, but I do believe it's Superman.
I was struck too at how little George Reeves is actually on screen.
Yeah.
Right. It's just those couple of scenes, but obviously very impactful. And certainly when he swings through those, what would you call them? The kitchen
shutters, I guess, right? I would think.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's such a great moment. And obviously the kids and the audience go crazy and he picks up little Ricky and puts him on his shoulder. And yeah, to your point, I mean, he looked fantastic. I know, we're deeper into his time as Superman.
Yes.
And we know, as time wore on, right. Not as physically impressive, so to speak, as he was at the beginning of the series, but yeah, he looked great here.
I don't know how they did it. I mean, different cinematographer, different, makeup, whatever it may be, they made him look great. And they got, from what I understand, is they got the special effects people from Adventures of Superman to handle him swing at the bar. They put in the bar that he swung on to swing into the living room.
Yeah,
basically. But yeah, he just looks great in it. It's like, wow, this is not a man. This is 1957, right? So we're winding down even for time for George Reeves. I mean, in real life. And to see him not only look so great, but having a great time, or at least looking like he's having a great time, because there he's in front of a live studio audience doing this. That's got to be pretty cool. I mean, and Ricky's face is great. Right before he comes in, he kind of looks away from the kids towards the audience. Are you ready? And then he calls him for Superman. But you know what the power of this thing is for me? It's, to me, I compare, and this is going to sound like a weird comparison, to Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, in the sense of Abbott and Costello or Abbott and Costello, the monsters are the monsters, and they don't spoof the monsters. They don't make fun of them to make them part of the comedy. They are true to themselves, the Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein's monster. In this episode, it's the Ricardos and the Mertzes and Superman does nothing that betrays the image that he is Superman.
Yeah. No, very true. Now, what's your understanding of how this came to be? Was it the idea that I Love Lucy recognized the intense popularity of the Superman show and wanted to capitalize and tie in?
From what I understand, a friend of mine who's like probably the world's foremost expert on I Love Lucy and has written a book called The Lucy Book. His name's Jeffrey Mark. The way he explained it to me is that Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, but in certain ways, Lucille Ball was very aware of future generations watching this show, because I mean, they were the first show to set themselves up for reruns. I mean, nobody else had really done that before. And then once they did it, everybody else jumped on and said, oh my God, we can make reruns out of this. which is why they did the 3 camera in front of a live studio audience. So she was aware of kids watching the show and, of course, kids watching Superman. And in terms of marketing, she was no fool in the sense of recognizing that if you put Superman on an episode of I Love Lucy, there'll be a lot more eyeballs on it, probably, even though it was like one of the highest rated shows on television through most of its run. Well, I think it was one of the highest through its entire run, but really high up there. So I think it was brilliant marketing as well, and also catering a little bit to kids and letting kids enjoy the fact, because the show aired, I think, on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. So it was early enough where kids could stay up and watch Superman be on I Love Lucy. So yeah, so I think it was very smart, and she had a good vision for the future of that this could play off very well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's very cool. Now, I know much has been made about George's credit or lack thereof, right? So I watched on Paramount Plus, I watched it streaming, and so George Reeves is not mentioned or listed in the written credits, but I know on YouTube, Adventures of Superman historian Jim Nolte put up the original closing credits, and it does announce George Reeves as one of the guest stars. So in the original airing, at least, he was credited.
It was a voiceover. It wasn't a written thing, right? Yeah, I knew about that too. Jeffrey, again, my friend Jeffrey Mark, who's the guy, told me that. Oh no, in the original one, he got credit for it, because here's a guy trying to break out of the Superman image, right? He goes on the most popular show on television as Superman. You're not exactly breaking the image. But theoretically, if at the end of the show, the announcer says, and special guest star George Reeves as Superman, or, whatever, I think that would have been very important. And that kind of vanished after that initial airing. So, I mean, obviously people would go to know who George Reeves was years and decades to come. But at that time, I think, he wanted, I think, some of that attention too, which is why I'm sure he was delighted to do the show, right? He was going to open him up to a whole new audience.
Anything else about this that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, and we've kind of talked about just the historic nature of these two sort of icons in the 1950s coming together in this once in a lifetime type thing, because it never happened again. So it's once in a lifetime. But yeah, it's just a really special episode. And they even colorized it when they put out the DVDs or the Blu-rays of I Love Lucy as a special. They aired it on CBS one year. Which is kind of cool seeing it in color. It's even more fun. But no, I think that's really it. It's historic, it's fun, and it just helps perpetuate Superman. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well said. And it's another opportunity to see George Reeves in the role. And that's always a wonderful thing. Like I said, I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about it, and I'm glad that we did. And I appreciate you joining me. Absolutely. So what would you like to share with folks about your work? What do you have going on?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm senior entertainment editor at womensworld.com, and you could search my name and womensworld.com or my personal blog, edgrosswriter.com. And I'm still plugging away and, writing books and trying to do more writing on Superman, because despite what people think, I am not tired of writing about him yet. So despite Voices from Krypton and I'll just do the self-plug thing, Superman: A Definitive History, and I have the latest one is Men of Steel, 87 years, 87 actors. That's enough of my self-plugging, so there you go.
Very excited. Well, we'll keep an eye on all of that. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, audience. Make sure you keep tuning in to all of our Season 5 coverage. And as always, remember, only Superman can do super things. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. Another way to support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, is by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your podcast platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Flat Squirrel Podcasts is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today. Another exciting episode is a Flat Squirrel production. Key art by Greg Schiegel and theme music by Dan Pritchard.